Alright, my name is Scarlett, and I am doing a Wizard101 card game. I've already recorded a video like this before, showcasing like an old version of the game. This is a slightly newer version. More specifically, I just started working on the game again after not working on it for months, so I'm doing another one of these. Basically, I'm just going to go over the rules and what I've done for the game so far, and just kind of like showcase the Wizard101 card game from scratch. It should be pretty intuitive if you've played the game before, like Wizard101 itself, the game that this is, you know, uh, based off of, I guess. Not necessarily based off of, but it's a board game representation of the video game. So again, if you played the video game, this should be pretty intuitive, but there are some things that are different. So I'm just going to go over the mechanics real quick. And for starting with deck building, um, you choose a class that you want to play as. You can choose between Fire, Ice, Storm, Death, Myth, Life, and Balance. This determines your HP and which cards can be used in deck building. You determine your class by just kind of... Your class is basically determined by what your deck looks like. So you have a 64 card main deck. I should specify that. 36 card side deck. And you can... Your side deck can only consist of cards in your main deck, or the cards that can go in your main deck. And the same rules as the main deck apply for the side deck, except for basic attacks and max card count, which is different. If training points are left over from the main deck, they can be used on new spells for the side deck. So if you didn't use all your training points when making your main deck, you can use those remaining training points for cards in your side deck. And training points are basically just how you get spells that are not in your class. So if you're playing as a fire, if you're using a fire deck, you can use spells, you can use ice spells by using training points to put them into your deck. And you get 10 training points um, to start with deck building. Cards of the chosen class don't cost any training points, and cards of other classes can only be put in if they cost training points. So if I'm going to show this, what I've done so far, um, taking a look at the card, this number here is the training point cost. It's the bottom right hand corner. As you can see, this is a death spell that costs 3 training points to put in your deck. If you're playing as a death person, if you're using a death deck, then you don't have to worry about the training point costs. It doesn't cost anything. If you were playing ice or balance or whatever, you would need to invest 3 training points to put this into your deck. And looking at something like Dark Pact that has this dash for its training point cost, that means that it can only be used in death decks. It cannot be used in any other deck. So that's what that means. You can have a maximum of 6 copies of cards for your class, and you can have 4 copies maximum for cards that are not in your class. The exception is basic attacks, which you can have 6 of regardless of what class they are. And you only get 1 basic attack. And the basic attacks are, let me see if I can find them. Let me see here, where are they? Basically, basic attacks are just spells that cost 0 in the action points, and for some reason they're not in this death deck. Let me check the balance one. Yeah. This is a basic attack because its training point cost is 0. So it's basically anything that looks like this. Oh, it says search. So for setup, you set the main deck in front of you. You put the discard space to the right of the main deck, and hold on, I forgot something. So the side deck goes to the left of the main deck, and the discard space goes to the right of the main deck. And then each side rolls to see who goes first. The side that goes first gets 1 free power pip, and the side that goes second gets 2 free power pips. Pips are just going to be what you use to spend on your spells to use them. So it's basically what you use to pay for spells. And then each player shuffles their main decks and draws 7 cards, and main decks and side decks, and draws 7 cards from their main deck. So what that would look like is, I don't have a side deck, so I'm just gonna pull this out, and this will be the side deck. It's not actually the side deck, it's just a temporary placeholder because I don't have it. Ignore the backs of the cards. So it would look like this, and then your discard space would be right here. It can be in any order. You could put the side deck right here, and you could put the discard right here. It doesn't really matter. It's just, this is what I'm officially making it. So then you would draw 7 cards. You would draw 7 cards. And there you go. And this is basically the start, and then you would also roll, you know, to see which side goes first. I rolled a 3. Let's say my opponent rolls, they roll a 2. I would go first, and I would get 1 power pip. And for this, I'm just going to use these as normal pips and these as power pips, which I will get into later. So you would get 2 of these. If you're going first, you would get 1, and if you're going second, you get 2. So I'll start with 1. That's how you set it up. And then we get into turn phases. Starting with the beginning phase, each player draws cards from their main deck so that they have 7 cards in hand. At the very start of the game, you'll have 7 cards in your hand from setup anyway, so it doesn't really matter. And then each player rolls to see if they get a power pip or a normal pip. If you roll 1 through 3, it's normal. If it's 4 through 6, it's power. If you get heads, it's power. If you get tails, it's normal. You can change it if you want. It doesn't really matter as long as there's an equal way to get one or the other. And basically, pips are just, again, what you use to spend on your spells. Power pips count as 2 for 1. It's a 2 for 1. But only for spells of the class that you're playing as. So if you're playing as a fire class, or if you're playing a fire deck, your power pips only count as 2 for 1 for fire spells, not any other spell type. And I'm sure I'll get over that another time. And then it goes to planning phase 1. The active side, which is basically just whatever team or player is going first. What they can do in their planning phase is they can discard cards, as many as they want, and they can, I forgot another one. Draw cards from Okay, sorry. So basically, the active side or player or team or whatever you want to call it, what they can do on their turn is discard cards from their hand. They can draw cards from their side deck as long as they don't have more than 7 cards in hand. And cards drawn that way from the side deck this turn cannot be discarded. And an active player must select 1 card from their hand and place it face in front of their main deck as like declaring that they have selected that spell. Once all players from that side have picked a spell, the phase ends. And it goes on to reveal. Each player on the side that goes first reveals their selected cards, and then it goes to combat 1. In order from right to left, each player on the side that goes first rolls for accuracy, activates the card effect if the card successfully activates. So basically, if you successfully rolled for the accuracy, and then the next player repeats until the entire side is gone. So basically, I have to roll to see if I get a normal pip or not. I get a 5, so I get a power. So I'm going to choose to use Vampire. I'd place it down, and then since I'm the only person playing, I'd reveal it, because I go immediately to the reveal phase. And then we go to the combat phase, I think. Yes. Right? Yes. Yes. So I'd roll for accuracy. I have to roll a 2 to 10. I Wait, I have to roll a d10. My bad. I rolled a 5. 5 is between 2 and 10. So the spell successfully activates, and then I do the card's effect, which is in the box here. And the next player repeats until the entire side is gone. So if there was multiple people playing on my team, the next person would go, and then the next person would go until everyone on my team is gone. Since it's just me, I would just go, and then once I'm done, it would move on to the next player's turn on the other side, on the opposing side. So basically the phases just repeat. You have planning phase 2, reveal phase 2, and combat phase 2. They are exactly the same. They just apply to the other opponent, to the opponent. And then the end phase, once both players, or once both sides have gone, and every player on both sides have gone, the round ends and it goes back to the first phase, which is the beginning phase. And then you go to roll for, pips again, or I get another power pip. And my opponent would roll, and then I would draw one card from my main deck because I need 7 cards in my hand at all times. Well, not at all times, but at the beginning of your phase, you draw until you have 7 cards in hand. And yeah, anyways. And that's it for game phases. Everything else is just mana. Power pips, not power mana. I used to call it mana because I don't like the word pips. It just bothers me. Power pips count as 2 mana for your spells, for your class of spells, and you cannot exceed 7 pips at once. It does not mean you can have only 7 mana. You can only have you can have a maximum of 7 mana because each power pip counts as 2. You can have a maximum of 7 pips. 7 power pips is the highest amount of mana you can have, and that would equal 14. So that's all that means. Token positions, wards go in the middle, charms go on the top, and timers and auras go on the bottom, and globals and centers go in the center. Or globals go in the center. So basically all that means is, let's say I use Lightning Shield. I'm going to put this back so I don't forget. Never mind. So let's say I use Lightning Shield. Basically, to indicate that I have wards on myself, I would create a copy of the card, and I'd put 2 there in the middle of my... You have the front of your board right here. In the middle of that front part is where the wards would go. So they would go about right here. And to indicate that this is a storm ward, I can what am I gonna do? I'm professional. I was definitely prepared. So this can represent the fire ward, and this can represent the storm ward, and then this goes in the discard pile. And then these stay here until they're used. Yeah, and that's just how wards are handled. If it was charms, they would go right here. If they were auras or overtime effects, they would go here. And the globals would go in the center. That doesn't really give enough space for the actual cards, so I'll have to figure that out, but that's a later me problem. Accuracy, if a spell fails its accuracy roll, it is shuffled back into the main deck and no pips are used. So if I were to use Fallen Angel, and I were to roll a d10 for accuracy, and it ended up being, let's say, a 1, in this case it is, because I made it a 1, then the spell would fizzle, and I would go back into my deck and be shuffled into there. And it would just fail. Dispels, if a spell is dispelled, it automatically fails its accuracy roll no matter what. And drains, when dealing drain damage, restore HP equal to half the damage done, rounded down, not a heal. So that's kind of all I have written down, but there are a couple of things that I forgot about. Let me get rid of these. Probably should not have gotten rid of the dice, but whatever. So, let's talk about how damage scaling works and how things like lightning shield work. Okay, let's say I'm going up against a storm player, and let's say that they use Kraken. Okay, so they use Kraken. Let's say is successfully used. It succeeds. It passes its accuracy roll, and they do their effect. It deals 58 storm damage to a target. Actually, let's just talk about card structure. At the very top of the card is the name. You can probably figure that out yourself. Right here is the cost. This is how much mana it takes to use it, not how many pips it takes to use it, because pips and mana are different in this. In this case, let's say the storm player has this amount of pips. These are 3 power pips. Each of these counts as two mana for spells of their own class. So, in order to use Kraken, which costs 4, they would need to use 2, 4. If they had normal pips, like this, it would be 1, 2, 3, 4, because this counts as 2. And they would have to use these instead, if that's what they had. Hopefully that makes sense. This is just to indicate for all my colorblind friends what class it is without having to rely on the color of the card. This is the accuracy, and this is the scaling, which is what I'm talking about. And obviously the effect is in the effect box, and the training points, which I already talked about, are right here. So, scaling. Let's say the storm player uses Kraken on me. They pay for it, the accuracy is successful, and it goes off. So I have 58 damage coming to my face, but I have a lightning shield. So what happens is I have a -6 storm damage ward to target, which in this case would be myself, because wards are never mind. Just I'll get to that. So what happens is you get 6 because it's apply a -6 fire damage ward and a -6 storm damage ward to target. I have a -6 storm damage ward on myself. It'd be 6 times 6, which is the scaling. This is the scaling of the card. 6 times 6, 36. If you can't do that, you probably shouldn't be playing this card game. AKA, if you are under the age of 10, you should not be playing this card game. And then you subtract it from 58. So 58 minus 36 is 22. So I would take 22 damage. And yeah, I would take 22 damage. And then this would go in the discard pile, and my ward would be used. So that is how that works for scaling. Using another example, if you have Downpour, this is Storm's global. It applies a +2 storm damage and accuracy global. Let's say they use Kraken. I'm just taking it back from the discard. Normally you can't do that, but in this case it's just for an example. Let's say that they use Kraken on me and they have Downpour active. It would apply a +2 storm damage and accuracy global. 2 times 6, 12, plus 58 is 70. I would take 70 damage. So that's how scaling works. But what if I had Lightning Shield on top of that? How would it work with a addition or an additive modifier and a subtractive modifier? How it would work is it would be 2 minus 6, or 2 minus 6? Yeah, 2 minus 6. 2 minus 6 is a -4. No. How do I want to word this? It would be 6 minus 2. Or I guess you could, yeah, it'd be 6 minus 2. You take the bigger number first and then you subtract it. That's just how it's going to work, I guess. And that is 4. So instead of 2 or 6, it's 4. And you apply a 4 to the scaling. So it would be 4 times 6 is 24. 24 plus 58 is fucking 82, I think. If you need to pull out a calculator, that's okay, because guess what I have? A calculator. Most of it should be able to be done in the head, but not all of it. I understand that. Sometimes it's a bit it gets a bit complicated. I've done a few playtests before. It can get a little weird, but for the most part, hopefully it can be done in your head pretty easily. And if you can't, you can use a calculator. Unfortunately, it's not going to be very productive for the flow state, but that's okay for right now. It's a playtest. Um, so anyways, um, that is kind of it, I think. Let me see if there's anything else. Hopefully the card effects are pretty self-explanatory. Some of them, most of them are original from the Wizard101 game, so you'll recognize most of them. Some of them are new, like Ignite. I just used to emulate artwork. Um, so there are some new spells that I made, but for the most part, they're all pretty identical to the original, just modified to be appropriate for a board game because percentages do not work well in board game format. Anyways, I think that's it. I'm looking for playtesters. Um, so if you want to help me playtest the game, uh, you need Tabletop Simulator and preferably be 18 or older. I don't want to deal with kids. Um, it just is not enjoyable. And yeah, I'm just looking for playtesters to help me make this the best game I possibly can. And I'm open to criticisms, feedback, um, anything to help make it better and more understandable. So yeah, thank you for watching, and hopefully I can get playtesters from this and share it with the community. I have not had luck in the past because Reddit and the official Wizard101 Discord are cringe about letting people share links. Admittedly, that is probably for the best, but it is annoying for me because I'm not posting weird stuff. Anyways, yeah, let me know if you want to help me playtest. I'd be more than happy to set that up. And thank you for watching.